Welcome to Booze and Bourbon, a podcast where we talk about all things paranormal, and bourbon too. Now, here are your two ghostess hostesses with the mostest, Kim and Jen.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Booze and Bourbon. This is Jen, and here's Kim.
Hey, Jen, how are you today?
Just, in the Festivus mood over here today.
That is excellent. Well, I have two tidbits of information to tell you.
Oh?
One is that I burnt my hand today, so I feel super awesome right now. And two is that we got an update from one of our listener stories. So I don't know if you remember the story about John seeing and hearing the basically shadow figure in his house and his son also experiencing that. Mm-hmm. So when he got ready to go to work, he noticed on his leg 3 massive claw marks that he didn't put there. And one was insanely swollen. And I'm going to send you the picture right now.
Oh, so yeah. Oh,
so he's like, today is definitely going to be a sage day.
Yes, I would say that's probably your best option there, John.
Yeah, it's wild. I was like, I really don't like it. I don't know what message this thing is trying to convey to you, but it does not seem happy. So, yuck.
Great.
Back to happy thoughts, though. Let's talk about Christmas, because guess what? Merry Christmas! So, since we're going to be talking about Christmas tradition today, what would be your absolute favorite Christmas tradition when you were growing up versus right now?
So you want both, the childhood one and the adult one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, well, childhood one, I would have to say probably we used to have a really big... We still do have a big get-together on Christmas Eve, so it's like on my mom's side of the family. But I think that would be one of my favorite traditions just because it was really, sadly, the only time that we would see each other other than like maybe a couple birthdays throughout the year. But most times it legit was the only time that all the cousins get together. So...
Nice.
And we normally, with my coaxing of all of I was the oldest, I would coax everyone into sneaking a peek at a present under the tree, which they weren't supposed to. So I love
it.
I may have, coaxed a lot of that along. So that was also enjoyable. Adult version would be the fact that somehow I'm now the earliest riser and even beyond the kids. And I get up and wake everybody up, and including my parents. I still like to show up at their house really early and like run screaming into the room like as if I was 5 again and be like, Santa came.
Oh my God.
And then I get the really cranky look from both of them like, who the fuck gave you? Why do you have a key? Like why are you in here right now?
That's amazing. I love it.
So yeah.
You are definitely an elf.
I am the elf. So what about yourself?
Well, I really used to love going to church on Christmas Eve. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason being was that I would have a new dress to wear. So I was like super fancy, got all dressed up, drive to church, see all the Christmas lights, wonder about the magic of Christmas, and then come home, look at the tree, and, the very traditional, put the milk and cookies underneath or in front of the fireplace for Santa and the reindeer. And I always remember waking up in the morning and my dad telling me, Kim, you are not going to believe this. You are not going to believe this, but I heard last night, I actually heard reindeer hooves. And I'm like, no. He's like, yeah. He's like, I heard the little clicking. And he's like, I was too frightened to go out to look on the roof. There was no way that it was anything else. And I'd be like, oh, my dad said that. I was so excited. So now today, what Ryan and I do is sometimes we make it to church, sometimes we don't. But we always pick one present under the tree and open it and then get lit And then we just can't contain ourselves anymore. And we're like, let's just open them all. So we open up all the Christmas tree. I know. But the thing is, like, our days are usually so busy.
True.
Because his family is like an hour away and we spend half the day with them. And then my family is back down close to where we live. So there's a lot of driving throughout the day. And
True.
I really feel it that Christmas Eve is more like our thing. So yeah.
Well, that's nice.
Those are my traditions.
I was just going to add a funny story because you reminded me with the your dad telling you about the sounding of hooves.
Yes.
This could be disturbing to some, but my dad is a hunter, so he kept a couple deer legs
No.
to make the prints in the snow.
No.
So one year,
he didn't.
this didn't happen every year. This was just one year. I remember he went above and beyond on the back deck and put actual prints in the snow, which of course years later, I realized was just a horrible, he kept some deer legs and used those feet, but
That is so sick and twisted.
But it was great at the time because my little brother and sister really appreciated thinking that, Prancer Dancer, everybody was out there in the backyard and on the deck. So,
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did. Wow. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you for
Sorry
sharing
for
that with us, Jen. Don't apologize. That's amazing. On today's episode, if you haven't already figured it out, we're going to get into some Christmas traditions and we're going to focus on one main Christmas tradition, which we love and totally wish our families did when we were growing up, which is telling ghost stories around a crackling, glowing fire. But before we get into that, let's talk about some traditions that you, as our listeners, may have.
Well, there is the Christmas pickle.
I like that one.
And I mean, I didn't know this until obviously reading it, but I think I did have a pickle at one point on my tree.
Did you?
A sparkly one that I got from a craft show. So this just makes it all the more better when I read this. But
now you understand.
Yeah. So if there's a pickle among your Christmas tree ornaments, you're likely taking part in the American tradition of hiding the briny-looking ornament on the tree. Tradition is that whoever finds the pickle first gets to open the first present Christmas morning. The practice's origins are a bit murky, but it's likely from a Woolworth's marketing gimmick from the late 1800s, when the retailer received imported German ornaments shaped like a pickle and needed a sales pitch.
I love it. So they created for marketing this tradition. But in the late 1800s.
It's a cool tradition. I mean, I would just like any opportunity to open gifts first. Like if that was the thing back, I should have realized this a long time ago.
Definitely. Okay, so mine that I want to read to you is one that is no surprise. It's boozy eggnog. And it's been said that such things as boozy eggnog are the spice of the holidays. There are not too many things that add as much delight as a creamy baking spice, a sweet, boozy treat. You either love eggnog or you hate it, and I happen to love it. And I've been holding out for buying any at the grocery store so far this year, just because this year, as we know, is a very COVID Christmas, and I really wanted to make these drinks special with the eggnog. The Yuletide cocktail stems from posset, which is a drink made with hot curdled milk and ale or wine from medieval England. So trust me, mine is definitely better than that.
Yeah.
So that's going to bring me to our next topic here, Jen. We are having a traditional Christmas cocktail, which is the eggnog with a twist. And instead of using rum, we of course are using bourbon. So Evan Williams actually makes a pre-mixed version, which is pretty good. We've had that in years past, but I love making it from scratch. Not making the eggnog from scratch because I hear that's a lot of work and it's pretty gross and you'll probably be turned off of it, but the pre-made eggnog. And to make this cocktail, I'm going to be using Maker's Mark. I love the unique spices that Maker's Mark has in it. You know how it's got those baking spices, release, nutmeg and cinnamon and cloves. Mm-hmm. So I thought it would make the absolute kick-ass baking spice forward cocktail. So the recipe will actually be listed in the show notes for everybody to take a look at. Oh my gosh, because my hand is burnt, I cannot open the carton. All righty. So now I'm just going to give it a nice little stir. So, upon first sip of the season, damn, that is so delicious. Okay, so now that I have my bourbon, Jen, you know what time it is.
Oh, do I?
It's time for a little game of Would You Rather.
Sticking with what we're discussing today, would you rather come back as a spirit trapped inside of one of those old ornaments that used to have the little scenes in them, if you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yes. So one of those, so you live inside the ornament. Mm-hmm. Or would you rather come back in what I would call it used to be like a ceramic tree that plugged in with little lights and sometimes played music.
Oh my gosh. Yes, my sister-in-law revived all of our family's ones and has them spread out on this really nice long table. So there's like 5 different ones and they're all different heights and they're so nostalgic and so cute.
Yes. Well, those are the 2 that I think of, and that's what I was thinking. So if you come back, that's your thing. You're either playing some music out of the ceramic tree with some pretty lights, or you're in one of these ornaments that has a pretty little scene in there.
Yeah.
Maybe you could wave to people. I don't know how that would work, but
I don't know. I feel like these Christmas trees are making a comeback. You see them in not antique stores, but like thrift store, vintage stores. That's what we're going to call them. So I feel like they're making a comeback. I feel like I'd be cool for a while. Although my fake snowy surroundings inside of a little glass globe would be really cute too. But I'm going with the fame and the trend, and I'm going Christmas tree.
Okay, nice. I like it. And I actually think I saw them on Amazon as well now, so they're coming back again.
See, there you go.
Good choice.
Okay, so Jen.
Yes.
You are a haunted Christmas record.
Okay.
Are you Kenny and Dolly's Christmas?
I knew it. You were going to say that. Yes.
Or are you Justin Bieber's Christmas album?
I'm 110% Dolly and Kenny.
Good.
All the way.
Excellent choice.
I love me some Biebs, but I'm sorry, Biebs. I got to go with Dolly and Kenny on this one.
I know. There's a lot of talent there and a lot of emotions and feels and Christmas traditions. So fantastic choice. Okay, guys. So just after the break, we are going to get right down into some amazing Christmas tradition ghost stories. Stay tuned.
Welcome back, everyone. So let's get into our Christmas special. The tradition of telling holiday ghost stories dates back to the time before Christmas was even commercialized, towards the tail end of the Victorian era. Centuries ago, the Christmas holiday tied in with the ancient pagan celebration of Yule. Yule was celebrated on the shortest day of the year, December 21st, a day when it was believed that the dead could easily interact with the living.
Well, that's pretty amazing, but it's also slightly terrifying. All right, well, I've got our very first story here, Jen, so let's take turns reading this one. It's called A Christmas Meeting by Rosemary Timperley. It gives me an uncanny feeling sitting alone in my furnished room, with my head full of ghosts and the room full of voices of the past. It's a drowning feeling, all the Christmases of the past coming back in a mad jumble. The childish Christmas, with a house full of relations, a tree in the window, sixpences in the pudding, and the delicious crinkly stocking in the dark morning. Then there's the adolescent Christmas, with mother and father, the war and the bitter cold. And the letters from abroad, the first really grown-up Christmas with a lover, the snow and the enchantment, red wine and kisses, and the walk in the dark before midnight, with the ground so white and the stars diamond bright in a black sky, so many Christmases through the years. And now the first Christmas alone, but not quite loneliness, a feeling of companionship with all the other people who are spending Christmas alone, millions of them, past and present. A feeling that if I close my eyes, there will be no past or future, only an endless present, which is time, because it is all we ever have. Yes, however cynical you are, however irreligious, it makes you feel queer to be alone at Christmas time. So I'm absurdly relieved when the young man walks in. There's nothing romantic about it. I am a woman of nearly 50, a spinster school ma'am with grim, dark hair and old eyes that were once beautiful. And he's a kid of 20, rather unconventionally dressed with a flowing wine-colored tie and black velvet jacket, and brown curls, which could do with the taste of the barber's scissors. The effeminacy of his dress is belied by his features, narrow, piercing blue eyes, and arrogant, jutting nose and chin. Not that he looks strong. The skin is fine drawn over the prominent features, and he is very white.
He bursts in without knocking, then pauses and says, "I'm sorry, I thought this was my room." He begins to go out, then hesitates and says, "Are you alone?" "Yes." "It's strange being alone at Christmas, isn't it? May I stay and talk? I'd be glad if you would." He comes right in and sits down by the fire. "I hope you don't think I came in here on purpose. I really did think it was my room," he explains. "I'm glad you made the mistake, but you're a very young person to be alone at Christmas time." "I wouldn't go back to the country to my family. It would hold up my work. I'm a writer." "I see." I can't help smiling a little. That explains his rather unusual dress, and he takes himself so seriously, this young man. "Of course you mustn't waste a precious moment of writing," I say with a twinkle. "No, not a moment. That's why my family won't see. They don't appreciate urgency. Families are never appreciative of the artistic nature." "No, they aren't," he agrees seriously. "What are you writing?" "Poetry and a diary combined. It's called My Poems and I by Frances Randall. That's my name. My family says there's no point in my writing, that I'm too young. But I don't feel young. Sometimes I feel like an old man with too much to do before he dies, revolving faster and faster on the wheel of creativeness." Yes, exactly. You understand. You must read my work sometime. Please read my work. Read my work. A note of desperation in his voice, a look of fear in his eyes, makes me say, "We're both getting much too solemn for Christmas Day. I'm going to make you some coffee, and I have plum cake."
I move about, clattering cups, spooning coffee into my percolator. But I must have offended him, for when I look around, I found he has left me. I am absurdly disappointed. I finish making coffee, however, then turn to the bookshelf in the room. It is piled high with volumes, for which the landlady has apologized profusely. "Hope you don't mind the books, miss, but my husband won't part with them, and there's nowhere to put them. We charge a bit less for the room for that reason." "I don't mind," I said. "Books are good friends. But these aren't very friendly-looking books. I take one at random, or does some strange fate guide my hand?" Sipping my coffee, inhaling my cigarette smoke, I begin to read the battered little book published, I see, in spring 1852. It's mainly poetry, immature stuff, but vivid. Then there's this kind of diary, more realistic, less affected. Out of curiosity to see if there are any amusing comparisons, I turn to the entry for Christmas Day 1851. I read, "My first Christmas alone. I had rather an odd experience. When I went back to my lodgings after a walk, there was a middle-aged woman in my room. I thought at first I'd walked into the wrong room. But this was not so, and after a pleasant talk, she disappeared. I suppose she was a ghost, but I wasn't frightened. I liked her. But I do not feel well tonight. No, not well at all. I have never felt ill at Christmas before." A publisher's note followed the last entry. Frances Randall died from a sudden heart attack on the night of Christmas Day, 1851. The woman mentioned in this final entry in his diary was the last person to see him alive. In spite of all requests for her to come forward, she never did so. Her identity remains a mystery.
Crazy. That's a good one.
I know. I love it.
That's like a feel-good one.
It is, but it's also so sad at the same time because she's just realizing that she's a ghost and that guy died.
Yeah. So this is your first ghost experience. Welcome to the group. Well, I'm going to go on to The Returned Relative by V. Page. It was Christmas time of 1995 or 96 at my aunt's house on a reservation in North Dakota. Some of my family was in the living room watching television. The kids were playing in their rooms or sleeping, and my uncle, aunt, and I were sitting at the table putting a puzzle together. My cousin, who worked at a casino, would come home around midnight or 1 a.m. This night, as she pulled up and was walking towards the house, she looked in the window and saw me sitting at the table, my uncle sitting across from me, and someone standing to the left of me, and someone standing in the corner. So she continued to walk into the house, thinking nothing of it. As we were sitting there, talking, she looked at me and asked who was standing next to me a few minutes ago, and who was in the corner. I told her, no one, and she said, yeah, there was someone standing next to you. It looked like your mom, and she was playing with your hair. Ugh. Just to add in, I have long hair, which I used to wear down all the time. She said this person was running her hand on my hair like a mother does to a child. It kind of freaked me out, being I was probably only 12 or 13 at the time. My cousin swears up and down that someone was standing over me, rubbing my head and watching me put the puzzle together with my aunt and uncle, and that there was another person standing behind this person. We got around to thinking it was probably her mom she saw. She passed away on her birthday a week before Christmas back in 1992. In my family, we consider our aunts and uncles to be just like our moms and dads. After thinking that it could have been her, it didn't scare me so much. However, we couldn't figure out who the person was standing in the corner. And always around Christmas time, something strange always happens, and we just think it's her visiting us.
Wow.
That's another cool one and kind of sad too, but like, good that she comes to visit.
Yeah, I just feel like that closeness. I think Christmas can be a really happy time for a lot of people, but it can be a really, really sad time for a lot of people too, because you could be lonely, or it could be your first Christmas without a loved one, family member, friend. You know, I think it can be one of those times where you really could use seeing one of those people or feeling their presence. So I think it's pretty cool. All right, the next one is called The Haunted Tree by Caitlin Williams. My parents and I lived in a small home that was around 90 years old. The year would have been 1996. We lived there from the time I was 7 years old to the time I was 19. From that very day that we moved in, I felt that I was not alone. One year around Christmas time, I was having a friend spend the night. The heat had just shut off briefly, and she and I were sitting in the living room watching television when the temperature dropped substantially. As I rose to turn up the heat, the Christmas tree began shaking violently. Ornaments were falling off left and right, and she and I were terrified. I don't blame you. We ran upstairs and laid down on my bed. My white cat curled up with us, and my door was open slightly. When I gazed out of the dark hallway, I was horrified to see a tall white figure run down the hall. I turned to my friend, and she acknowledged that she had seen the exact same thing. And she never spent the night ever again.
Yeah, probably not.
Those ghosts. They can really shoo people away quickly, can't they?
Yeah. I mean, unless you're like us who like, you know, some friendly visits. Friendly being the key word there, but yeah.
And not in my own home. Thank you.
True.
Well, gosh, that was fun. And what a way to spend Christmas. So if this is actually Christmas Day and you guys are listening to us, thank you so very much. That means a lot to us. And we're so glad that we are spending time with you today.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I hope Santa was good to everyone.
I hope he was too. No lumps of coal. Our listeners are the best. So Jen, where can people find us on social media, and where can they download and subscribe to the podcast?
Well, guys, we are on Facebook, Booze and Bourbon, the podcast. We're also on Instagram, Booze and Bourbon. We are on YouTube as well. Might be a little late for Christmas gifts, but for January gifts, you can check out our Redbubble store. You can always reach us by email as well to send us any fun stories that you have, or any would you rather questions that you want to hear us, throw out there, which is boozeandbourbon@gmail.com, because we do appreciate those. And of course, you can listen to us on any of the lovely podcast providing apps on your phone. And if not, we are part of the ABV network, so you can also listen to us there.
Boom. You really have nailed that. I can honestly say you have that down pat.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. And I would like to announce right this very moment that I have a new podcast coming out.
What?
It's coming out on Tuesday, January 5th. I'm going to start with one season. It's just going to be 10 episodes, and it's a true crime and conspiracy podcast, and I am the voice and creator behind it, but my character is a fictional person.
Oh, what a twist.
I know. So if you want to find out more about that and see when the launch date is and just set up any reminders, then definitely go ahead and follow me on Instagram, which is Girl Named Whiskey, and it's whiskey with an EY at the end.
Yes. Yay. So exciting.
I know.
Well, you're starting off the year. You're brightening it up. 2021, brightening it up.
I am. I definitely am. And, you know, I feel like since I do a paranormal podcast with you, I've kind of relinquished any weird feelings about people thinking that I'm a strange person. So we're just going to, you know, take it up a notch, and people are really going to call me crazy now. So it's going to be great.
But I mean, they kind of, and sometimes they go hand in hand. Like if you like true crime and conspiracy, sometimes, you know, you're a little bit more accepting.
Yes. I have one episode currently recorded, and I have 2 more scripts that are done. So it should be good. I'm so excited to share it with you guys.
Very exciting. Everyone, check out Instagram.
Thank you again so much for joining us today, and we will be back for an all new episode next Friday.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Booze and Bourbon is part of the ABV network. For more information or to advertise on the show, please head over to abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, and cheers.
This has been a Steve Akeley production.